Hey! Stealathan, this joke Mickle here at John Likes Music for my first ever review. Woo! Here's how we're gonna do this. I'll give you a short little bit about the artist and what I know about them, talk about the record or the single in context of the rest of the artist's work, and then give it a score out of 10. So without further ado, let's do it! Rich Brian, formerly known as Rich Chigga, also known as Brian Emanuel, Twitter famous, Vine famous, general funny boy. He stole headlines left and right in 2017. Pigeons and Planes, Complex, Pitchfork, Billboard, even a BBC One interview with Pharrell Williams, who eventually made his way onto the production team for Amen. And that's all even before he even had a debut project. Brian is from Jakarta, Indonesia, and has already had huge singles with heavy hitters like XXXTentacion, if he still qualifies, 21 Savage, Keith Ape, who's also a part of his record label, 88 Rising. Being surrounded by other members of the Asian rap collective 88 Rising are peers Joji, aka George Miller, aka Pink Guy, aka Filthy Frank, and the Higher Brothers, a quad group, as you call them, from China, who make some stuff. Upon being signed to 88, Brian released smash after smash, with only small missteps in between. Out of the 8 singles he's released since Dat Stick, which is a certified parody drill rap classic, he hasn't put out a single flop. You know, some of them are better than others, but none of them are objectively terrible. Each of them are distinct, and they're flavorful, and they bring new light to the themes that Brian is hoping to talk about in his future music and what he's talking about on Amen. Needless to say, I've been on the Rich Brian hype train since day one. If you saw my Twitter thread last December of my favorite tracks of the year, both Chaos and Crisis featuring 21 Savage, they were on that list. I've been expecting a lot from Brian. He's young, he's ambitious, he's charismatic, but we've been given no evidence that he can do long form. And with Packed to the Brim albums dying out, especially in trap music, Culture 2, who's to say Brian has long game? Well, I do, because Amen did not disappoint. It's not perfect, so I'm not starting out my career with a perfect 10 out of 10. So let's start with some of the issues that I had. The album is a little front heavy, and a few of the themes on these tracks get pretty heavily recycled. And there are a lot of the same themes that are invading the rest of the trap scene. Stealing your girl, drinking, smoking cigarettes, driving cars, stealing your girl. If you can't tell, Brian trying to steal your girl. But what he offers is almost always fresher and more unique and more lyrically consistent than the rest of his counterparts. Migos! He throws in great jokes like, thinking about having many kids, even some are gonna be like, God damn, that's a lot of kids. It's so ridiculous. Or like Tom Sawyer, like to get right to the point, and my sneakers match my sweater, I got hella sauce like soy. Like, what? The lyrics can grate though, hearing about the same things over and over. Additionally, I was really kind of disappointed with the Joji feature on Introvert. He seems like he's on Novocaine, with mouth seem to not really work right. And we know that Joji's a little bit more prolific than that, and his tone matches the overall quality of the song, but he also doesn't seem to be on key? Which was really bothering me, because the feature gets considerably better later on in the song when both Brian and Joji take the bridge. Speaking of features, the August 08 feature on Arizona is absolutely stellar. But the track surrounding it is easily the worst part of Amen. Starting out really poor with these odd, detuned piano pulses that just kind of sit in the background and really grate the ears. This could have easily been fixed if you had just taken the effect off the piano and just made it some simple chords. But no, they had to throw this effect on it, and it's all ding, 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 ding. And then once Brian hops on the track, it doesn't get much better either. The piano still grates in the background, and lyrically, he's not bringing anything really interesting to the table either. They just seem to be short little blurbs that aren't connected and don't really have anything to do with anything at all. And there's a beat switch mid-track which could have helped save it, but it doesn't, because it seems like just a watered-down version of the superb production we've been hearing on the rest of the album. And then suddenly, it just ends, blending into this conversation that Brian is having with one of the 88 Rising members about The Office, like the sitcom The Office. And it has absolutely nothing to do with anything else on the record, on the track, anywhere. The only thing that you can tie it to is that Brian says, "Amen," at the end of the track. Arizona is an absolute mess and is a really disappointing bookend when you compare it to Amen, the title track, and the first track, which blows it out of the water. Other than that one big complaint and the fact that Enemies is pretty forgettable, that's about all I can say in terms of critiques. The rest of Amen is varied, ambitious, and proves that Brian is a heavy hitter and that he's here to stay. But the beats steal the show here. Mixed and produced masterfully with just the right amount of experimental edge and abstract themes to keep the most tuned listener engaged, but also keep it accessible enough that anyone can join in on the fun. The title and alpha track, Amen, is damn near perfect. He spits some really great self-aware bars about his real life and about how he tells stories. Sip on LaCroix, the buzz that I missed, talking about something that I never did. And the minimalist and cold-hearted production, plus Brian's relentless flow, get Amen off to a sprinting start. The track that follows, Cold, may have this frosty, glossy finish on it, but it's really kind of warm at heart. It details his rise to fame alongside this rising feeling of loneliness. And it creates several vivid memories of childhood and a sense of innocence that's not really found in other rappers. Brian opens himself up right off the bat, and I think it pays off. Occupied features some of my favorite production on the whole project. Clinking synth bells, some great reverberated drum beats. They all just work together and they just force you to groove. He also experiments a little bit with song structure here, having this weird verse bridge hybrid thing that doesn't really start and end the same way. 3 tracks in, so far so good. Introvert is where Amen makes its first big misstep, namely the Joji feature, but that's about it. The rest of the track is really solid and gives us a good insight onto our boy Brian. What it's like to be an introvert who's constantly soaked in the limelight and loving that limelight, but also understanding that it drains you. It's personally relatable to me as an introvert of the same nature. Now, obviously, I ain't got no limelight, save for this lamp that I have over here. Now, I'm not going to break down the rest of the album track by track because that would take so long and you don't really care anyways. So I'm just going to shout out a few moments from the rest of the record that I thought were really good. The Offset from Migos feature on Attention, it's real nice. And the production matches their similar but different styles really well. Glow Like That was an introverted classic in 2017. It's just as good here. Trespass has some of the best production on the record, and the themes and the lyrics are cold. Like Icicle Through the Heart cold. See Me features the lines, "I would never quit, I'm too legit. Indonesian MC Hammer in this bitch." And the world is just better for it. Kitty is the biggest surprise on the record. Some phenomenal, hollow, nocturnal, sexy production. It's got honest, engaging storytelling with 2 M. Night Shyamalan-esque twists. Okay, they're not that wild, but you don't see it coming, and I for sure didn't see it coming. Hey, Brian. Hey. We want more of this. Funny, and you can tell a story, and you're clever. Translate that into more of your songwriting. You could have a concept record on your hands. The production on Little Prince reminds me a lot of Dire Dire Docks from Super Mario 64, and I love it. Chaos was one of my favorite tracks of last year. It's hard-hitting, it's fast, it's loud, it's a great time. The album should have ended here, but it didn't. Honestly, I'm remarkably impressed. I've hyped this record up to friends, fellow music nerds, and I've been tweeting about it ever since he originally tweeted about it in December of 2017, and I was not disappointed. It's not perfect, nor could I have reasonably expected it to be. But for a debut product for a really young, ambitious artist, it's a feat. Not to mention it's the first great trap album of 2018. Migos! I'm gonna give Amen an 8.25 out of 10.